What's up guys? Welcome back to Northeast Tactics Q&A. In this video, I'm going to go over 3 tips you can use right now to improve your overall fishing with lures for striped bass and bluefish. Whether you're brand new or maybe you've been fishing for a little while but you're still not quite getting the results you want, these 3 ideas can be applied immediately to improve your overall success. So tip number 1 is to make every cast count. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, obviously, we're going to try and place the cast in the best possible location where we think the fish are going to be. But the thing that I often messed up with this when I first started fishing with lures was I would cast the lure out as far as I could, reel it in for what I thought might be the productive section of water, and then just skip it in for the rest of the way. So perhaps I was only reeling that in and working the lure properly for half the distance that I'd cast it, rather than working it all the way in. I think the old saying is work it to your boots, and this definitely applies here. Because when you just cast out and you're working half of the section that you casted, not only are you wasting that other distance, you're also not taking the time to explore that stretch of water. There have been many times where I've been fishing with bait or lures, and the fish have been closer rather than farther away. I've cast out very far, and because I worked the lure all the way back in, I was catching the fish 10, 20, 30 feet in front of me. Whereas if I just skipped that in, like I, occasionally fell into the bad habit of doing, I never would have known those fish were there. So I highly recommend when you're fishing a new lure, or especially when you're fishing a new area that you don't fully know, definitely take the time to work that lure all the way in through the full range of the cast. And sometimes you'll be surprised at just how close the fish gets hooked. Tip number 2, take risks with your lures. Now, what I mean by this is don't be afraid to lose them. That was kind of like a trap I fell into when I first started fishing. I'd buy some really nice lures or some lures that I really liked, and I would kind of try and protect them when I was fishing, which it kind of just messes up the whole process. When I buy a lure now, the mindset that I'm in is as soon as that comes off the shelf, it's lost, it's gone. Why? Because when I'm out there fishing, I will fish it as hard as I possibly can until I either lose it in the structure or I hook a fish with it. And that's the mindset you want to be going into this with when you're going out fishing with lures. And what I would recommend is buy a bunch of cheap lures to start out with. Lures that you're not afraid to lose and lures that aren't really going to set you back if you do lose them. And use that to learn the structure of the areas you're fishing. And then in your fishing journal, which you should be keeping, keep a section of the different areas that you fish, and of each area kind of draw out where the structure is. Like for example, you're fishing a beach, and when you're standing at a certain part of that beach and you're working a bucktail, you always get snagged in this location. Okay, jot that down so now you know. There's an area I fish, I really like to go jigging, and there's certain spots where I know if I don't lift that jig off the bottom and start reeling it in, I'm gonna lose it. And I know that because I took a mental note of it, wrote it down in my journal, and now I know where I can and can't fish lures in that given area. So use some cheaper lures to figure out the structure of the different locations, and then once you know the area a little bit better, you can feel safer throwing your more expensive lures out there while still fishing them hard and making the most of them. Tip number 3, learn to have fun with the process. Now, fishing is supposed to be fun, obviously, that's why we do it. But it can often be intimidating to try out new lures, and it can often be frustrating. My advice for this is to use your lures that you're familiar with to find the fish, and then purchase a couple of other lures that you're not so familiar with, but that you want to add to your arsenal of lures that you're experienced with. Once you find the fish, break out those other lures and put a couple of fish on them. Not only will you learn to have fun fishing them when you just start catching fish on them almost right away, but the action of the fish around you will give you immediate feedback as to whether or not you're using them properly. And that'll help you get familiar with them, and before you know it, you'll have a collection of over 100 lures like I do, but more importantly, you'll be ready to fish a wide range of locations and conditions that you otherwise wouldn't have been prepared for, and you'll just end up having more fun in the process. So that's it for this video. 3 tips you can apply immediately, take them with you on your next fishing trip, and have fun with them. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll see you next time.